Today's guest is Sonja Deklerk. Here's our job talk with a fine jewelry designer.
Welcome to the Job Talk podcast, where we talk with people who love their jobs. Our guests open up about their challenges, surprises, and secrets to success in their industries. Through conversation, we explore their careers, past work experiences, and the education that got them to where they are now.
Sonja, when did you first discover that you wanted to pursue a career as a fine jewelry designer?
Okay, so that is interesting because I knew from a very young age I wanted to be an artist. That was always, there were two certainties in my life. I wanted to be a mom and an artist. Yeah. And so following high school, I studied fine art. And after completion, I had no idea what to do, but I knew I needed a job. And so the only reason I got into fine jewelry design was because I saw an ad for a jewelry designer position at Adamas Goldsmiths, and they said that they needed somebody with artistic ability. And so I had no jewelry experience. I knew nothing about diamonds, gemstones, and gold, or even jewelry design, but I had artistic experience. And so I went in on a hope and a prayer that maybe I would qualify for this position. And I did, and it has now been 22 years in the industry as a jewelry designer.
So you learned on the job. Did you also have to take further education for what you're doing?
I did. So I went on to study at the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America, and I completed the Applied Jewellery Programme. I am studying to become a Graduate Gemologist. But the jewelry industry, when you're talking about jewelry design, goldsmithing, there are very few programs that truly prepare you and teach you to be successful in that field. A lot of it is just hands-on learning. But as this episode goes on, I can focus more on where you can go to get the proper learning and education to give you that step up and advantage in your career and maybe save you some time and give you some focus and direction.
Maybe that's a great place to start. Could we talk about that right now?
Yeah. So anybody interested in jewelry design should have an artistic ability and a love of creation. So there is a wonderful program in Calgary. It used to be the Alberta College of Art and Design. I now believe they are called Alberta University of the Arts. And so they are the only program that I know of in Alberta that allows you to get a Bachelor of Fine Arts, even a Master of Fine Arts, specifically in jewelry and metals. And so that is a really, really wonderful program that they offer that kind of gives you a broad exposure to being a bench jeweler, touching on jewelry design, learning about diamonds and gemstones. I think they even touch on a bit of an entrepreneurial side if you want to start your own design studio. So that's a program that I would strongly recommend looking into if you are interested. A less intimidating and if you just want to kind of get your toes wet, you can take a look at the GIA's website because they offer valuable information, insight, and education. You can take distance courses. You might even want to start out with something as simple as just an introduction to jewelry. Yeah. And then you can get a little bit of an understanding and kind of see, is this something that I'm truly interested in? Because if you're not interested, there's no point in pursuing something that doesn't resonate with your heart and something that you can't be passionate about, because jewelry design, anything that is artistic and creative, you have to have a passion for it to truly thrive. And I can tell you, I'm very passionate about what I do, which makes it so rewarding and so fulfilling. There are many facets in the fine jewelry industry. You don't necessarily have to be a designer like I am. You might find that you're more interested in bench work and you want to be a goldsmith. You might find that you really just love sales. You like that interaction, the one-on-one interaction, and you'll thrive in a sales environment. Maybe you are more interested in being an appraiser, a graduate gemologist, and you really are intrigued by taking in these pieces and assessing the diamond quality and the gemstones and the gold purity, and so it's just really a very diverse industry that if you have a passion and desire, there's going to be a fit somewhere.
Actually, we were talking before we started to record, and you said there's a difference between a jewelry designer and a fine jewelry designer. Can you tell us what the difference is?
There are lots of jewelry design programs. There's local, you can go to, I'm local in Edmonton here. You could go to Bedrock. You can take a silversmithing course. You can learn beadwork. There's lots of, in the industry we call it costume jewelry. Yeah. Because it's not using precious metals and gems. And so it's either silver or a base metal, or really anything that you can use as an adornment for creating a piece that you wear as jewelry. But the difference is that it just doesn't have that precious metal, and it doesn't have that material value. And so the world of fine jewelry and then the world of accessories, they're different worlds. And that actually might be a nice place for someone to start off is just with silversmithing or taking a jewelry design course, a little workshop. Etsy is a good way to start out too. Like if you're just really wanting to get your toes wet and not dive headfirst into this, start out with something simple because one, there's not the huge cost involved. Two, you can find out if this is something you're passionate about. And then you can always grow and you can always learn new skills and it can evolve and it can grow into something bigger.
I want to get into the details of what you're doing now with the company that you own, but can we talk a little bit about your career path, some of the positions that you were in, and eventually get to maybe why you wanted to start your own business?
What my career path looked like, I was an in-house jewelry designer and first of all, I just need to give the warmest praise, love, and respect for the companies that I have been blessed, because I truly feel it was a blessing and a privilege to be able to work with. I was an in-house designer for Adamas Goldsmiths for 18 years and an in-house designer for Vandenbergs Jewellers, and they are some of the best in terms of people and the talent, and so I consider myself very fortunate. But in regards to starting my own business, that there was always a part of me that wanted something more. I wanted my own line. I didn't want to be an employee. I just wanted something a little bit more. And so I launched my own line in 2018, just on Etsy. I started out very small, just on Etsy as kind of a side hustle. And I was very intentional about the day that I launched that line. My dad passed away 11 years ago, and that the anniversary of his death was always something that it was a painful day because there's a lot of love attached, and so when there's love and they're gone, you miss them, there's pain. And so instead of having the anniversary of my dad's death being something that was surrounded by pain, I decided to launch my jewelry line on the anniversary. It was the 7-year anniversary of his passing. Yeah. And so now when it comes to his anniversary of his passing, I now have something to celebrate. And part of it is just in loving memory of my dad as a beautiful tribute. But so 2018, I launched my Etsy shop. I also got really interested in curating vintage fine jewelry. So seeking that out, restoring it, having it appraised, and then selling it. And I found a great passion in that. I geek out a little bit when I find a piece that's by a certain designer or from a certain time period. But then fast forward to actually February of this year, I opened my own design studio in Edmonton. And so it's been so rewarding and so exhilarating. And I have had so many beautiful experiences in such a short time.
What is the name of the line, and what is it that you have? And do you have more than one line, or is it the one that you designed and that's what you go with?
So I am a bespoke jewelry designer. That's basically a fancy word for custom jewelry design. So a lot of what I do is just one-of-a-kind pieces for one-of-a-kind individuals. And my clients come in and they maybe have a vision of what they're wanting, or they have no idea at all. But we work together and we design a one-of-a-kind ring for them that is a token or symbol of something so beautiful, which is a relationship, love, a memory, a significant milestone. And so these are just one-of-a-kind pieces that I will not reproduce. So that's primarily what I do. My line is called More Than Gold, and that is just very, very simple handcrafted gold bands that carry a significant message. And the message with these, and I'm going to like this one right here.
Yeah.
That's part of the More Than Gold collection. And on the inside of the band is written the phrase More Than Gold. And so as you wear those rings, it's my hope that you are reminded of 3 very important truths. One is you are precious, you're of value, and you are worth more than gold. So in terms of a line, I don't really offer a line yet. That is in the works. I do want to have a signature collection of engagement rings and even bridal jewelry. That's maybe if you talk to me next year, it will have come to fruition. Yeah. But as of yet, it's just a dream, and the plans are in place for that. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
Actually, I'd follow it up with, so you work in your passion. Congratulations on that. Not everybody lives in a world where the work that they do is what they're passionate about. You also own a business. So sometimes when you get into that situation, you have to worry about the business development and running a business, which is completely different from working in the passion that you want to work in. How are you finding the balance of running a business, but wanting to keep doing what you're passionate about?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so it was like just jumping off a cliff. I'm like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And so the good, the bad, and the ugly all came with that. And it's been a steep learning curve. Finding balance, I haven't found that yet. It's something I think that I'll continually be striving to find. But I have been blessed to be able to have really amazing female entrepreneurs in my life who are a great resource for me. And so if I have a question about marketing or accounting, because at this point, yeah, I wear so many hats. I do it all. And it's a lot of work, many hours, blood, sweat, and tears go into that. And at times I think, oh my goodness, have I made the worst decision of my life or the greatest decision of my life? More often than not, I'm feeling like it's the greatest decision of my life. So that keeps me going. But there are definitely times when I'm like, I need some help. I don't know how to, accounting, for example. I just need to leave that in the hands of somebody who's a professional and knows how to do that. And I'm learning that I need to delegate. I'm a perfectionist and I'd love to do everything myself if I could, but I've come to realize that there are some skills that I am much better at and other things that it just makes more sense to source out and delegate. So, yeah.
Can we talk about your actual day-to-day where
Sure,
let's take a typical day for you. What happens when you get up in the morning and you head to work?
Okay. Well, so first, I've got quite the commute. I live on an acreage about 20 minutes south of Leduc. And so having my design studio in Edmonton it has been so phenomenal for me because I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to go to the studio. And when I'm at the studio, I'm all in. I can get so much done. And so I've got that hours commute into the city, get to my design studio, and I try to arrange design consultations. I like to have 2 days where I book design consultations, and then the other days I can focus on working on the scale drawings, the renderings, getting quotes, ordering the diamonds and gemstones. And then you've got to do social media and photography and all that. But a typical day, I arrive at my office at about 9:30, and ideally I'll have 2 to 3 design consultations, which I love. I love people, and people. It's an entirely different experience than going into a mall where you go to a big box chain store and you look at their inventory, you say, I kind of like that one. So a lot of people are not prepared for the experience that it is, because this truly is an experience from start to finish. My clients come in, they're greeted warmly. I feel it's very important to establish a connection and a relationship because I want them to earn my trust. And I am so honored that they are choosing me to help them with a piece that is so special, sacred, and symbolic. This is a piece that they're likely going to wear for the rest of their life. Yeah. And so I want to make sure that it meets their requirements so it's aesthetically pleasing for them, so it is functional, wearable, durable. And in order for that, I need to educate them. And so the first design consultation is kind of a get to know you, and an educating session where we go over diamonds, we go over gemstones, we talk about the different qualities, things like clarity, color, cut, carat weight, the 4 C's, and then that's followed up with a second appointment when I actually have the scale drawing ready, and I'll explain what a scale drawing is, because the majority of people won't even know what that is. That is part of a fine art that is being lost as we move into more of a digital world. And primarily jewelry design is through CAD and 3D wax printing. So this is where I'm different. I do a scale drawing, which is a technical drawing. It is literally to scale, so the exact finger size, the exact size of the diamonds, like they have to be fractions of millimeters. Like the level of precision that has to go in there is very precise. But I love it.
Yeah.
And so I draw the ring to scale from different viewpoints. And so that allows the client to come in, view the drawing, and they're going to have a very good idea of what this ring is going to look like before we even move ahead. And so if any changes need to be made, it's in that drawing stage, because erasing graphite is a lot more affordable and easier to work with than once you've got a ring cast in gold. There is nothing cheap about this industry, and so you want to avoid expensive mistakes. So
well, you're working in something that is so personal to your client. How do you handle maybe they don't like something, or how do you bring it along? Because I mean, you just mentioned it's hard to fix mistakes on some of this material.
Yeah.
How do you handle that, or have you run into that?
You've got to get it right in the scale drawing. And so I've had to do multiple scale drawings for clients because they're just not feeling that it's perfect, and I'm 100% okay with that, because I would rather my feelings are not going to be hurt.
Yeah.
I want you to have the perfect ring, so I'm going to invest the time and effort to make sure that we've got the design perfect before we move ahead and cast in gold and set the stones.
Yeah.
And so yes, no, there have been clients that I've worked with where we just keep changing the design, but then once you've got it, and I can tell. I can tell by their reaction, like, yes, we've got it. And I have the confidence moving forward, and so do they.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you think that's the thing that you love most about what you do, is the reaction that you get from people looking at the work that you produce? What do you love the best about being a fine jewelry designer?
I love the human connection, and I love the stories behind the pieces. So I consider myself a listener and an interpreter. And so I find joy and passion and exhilaration in listening to my clients' life stories and then transforming it into something so beautiful that it is an heirloom quality token or reminder of their life experience, their love story. There's always something more to each design. It's not just a ring.
Yeah.
It is so much more than just a ring.
For sure.
And so when you have those stories and that passion behind it, it gets very emotional.
Yeah.
And so my currency is love. And so when my clients react with, like, there's been tears, lots of tears, happy, joyful tears, like that's my payday. And so I really hope to elicit those deep emotions in every client that I work with.
What are some of the obvious challenges that you go through when you're working with a client?
I think the biggest challenge is if a client isn't willing to open up. I'm pretty good at connecting with people, and I haven't had that happen too often where I can't earn someone's trust and confidence, and they don't feel comfortable opening up to me. But the more a client is willing to engage and share, almost just they need to take down walls and barriers.
Yeah.
And we need to have a heart-to-heart and determine, what does this ring truly mean? I guess taking down that wall and barrier is the biggest obstacle, because once that wall is gone, like, the whole process can then move forward organically and with excitement and exhilaration.
Yeah. Where do you find your inspiration? Is it through conversations with your clients?
Yeah. So I would say the majority of my clients come in with at least some kind of an idea of what they're wanting.
Yeah.
Whether they've got some images that they've saved on Pinterest, or people usually have some kind of imagery, and that's a really helpful way to point me in the right direction. And I never replicate a ring. Like, I'm very, as an artist, it's very important to me that there is some uniqueness and originality to things. So if somebody brings in a picture and says, I want this ring, that's not something that sits well with me. Yeah. And so I like to use it as a starting point for inspiration, and then I can add my artistic flair. Oftentimes people really value my opinion and my artistic ideas, and so there's no set way that it comes. It just kind of, as I meet with a person and I ask questions like, what is your daily life like? Like, are you outdoorsy, or are you, because the ring has to be designed to be functional as well.
Yeah.
So there are so many factors that go into designing a ring and finding that inspiration to make sure that this ring is going to be a good fit aesthetically, functionally, and durable and sustainable for how they want to wear the ring.
Yeah. Do you have favorite materials that you work with?
I love everything.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm just loving yellow gold right now. I really like to work in 14 or 18 karat yellow gold. I love colored gemstones. They just make my heart sing. So colored gemstones with diamond accent, that is that's my material of choice. I'll show you this one. I don't know how well that's going to show up on there, but this one is my ring, and it just is everything that makes me happy. Yellow gold diamond, and then a big, beautiful colored gemstone.
Yeah, for those listening, we'll make your website available to them so they can take a look at some of your work.
Sure.
Where do you get your diamonds from?
Okay, so sourcing is very important to me. Yeah. And the day and age we're living right now, there's a huge focus, as it should be, on ethical sourcing, sustainable sourcing.
Yeah.
And so I was very intentional with the companies that I chose to work with to make sure that, one, they were a member of the Responsible Jewelry Council. Two, they were SCS Global certified. And three, they used recycled precious metals. So I only work in recycled precious metals. And so the company that I do the majority of business with, they're phenomenal. They're in Louisiana. Okay. I try to keep everything local first, if I can.
Yeah.
But definitely, I want to stay in North America. That's important to me. So as much as I can, local here in Edmonton. And and Canada. And then what I am not able to get here, then I use the company in Louisiana. And so I offer lab-grown diamond, natural diamond, Canadian diamond, and it's important for me that the stones are certified, so backed with GIA certificates or some other documentation.
About 20 years ago, I had an opportunity to go tour the Diavik diamond mine up in the Northwest Territories. Yeah. I'm curious, is that mine still going, or did they shut that down?
Oh, okay. COVID has hit the diamond industry hard.
Has it?
It has. Even De Beers, the diamond mines weren't operational for the first time in history over COVID.
And De Beers, sorry, where's De Beers?
When it comes to diamonds, most people will think De Beers because they're the biggest, and for quite some time throughout history, they had a monopoly on the diamond industry with mining, and so COVID has impacted every industry, I think, but for the first time there was no rough diamond being mined, so there's no rough diamond to cut, which led to a shortage in supply. And so Canadian diamonds, they are very, very hard to come by right now. Yeah.
So is the supply chain issue affecting your industry as well? Is that a big challenge for you right now?
It is.
It is.
It is. Okay. Yeah. What's interesting is we've kind of seen the rise of lab-grown diamonds I mean, that's been, lab-grown diamonds have been around for a while, but they're really starting to make a scene in the jewelry industry, and there's a lot of debate over it. Is this considered fine jewelry? That's a topic that I am heavily interested in and invested in, and I just read up on everything that I can. I firmly believe that the lab-grown diamonds are here to stay, and I would say it's an industry disruptor. So if you think of Blockbuster Video and now Netflix, I think lab-grown diamond is a similar comparison, because you can get these beautiful stones that are diamond in every sense of the word. The one thing that they are lacking is rarity, and I am very clear with every client that lab-grown diamonds do not possess that quality, and rarity is directly affected to value and how a stone holds its value. So education is so key in choosing the materials that you work with. I'm going to give a little bit of a lecture right now, because talking about ethical sourcing and sustainability, it's important to know that if you're choosing a lab-grown diamond because you think it's an ethical choice, it's a sustainable choice, that might not be the case. There are different methods of producing these stones. One is HPHT, which is relies heavily on fossil fuels, and so is horrible for the environment. Yeah. Then there's CVD diamonds, chemical vapor deposition, and they can be produced using renewable energy sources like solar or hydro. And so one of the companies that I am proud to work with is Diamond Foundry, that is in the United States. And they are carbon neutral. They use 100% renewable energy sources. And so like you cut out the ethical issues are a non-issue.
If you could go back in time and talk to yourself as you were just starting your career, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Okay, I like that question because I think about if I could have gone back in time, very often, like it's like, oh man, I would have done this and this and this, and that would have saved me all of these issues. So what I would have told myself was that this is a career that you can really thrive in and enjoy. Because when I first started, I kind of felt like it was a default, like this is just temporary until I can make it as a visual artist, as a painter.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really, I didn't reach my full potential until, and I haven't even reached my full potential. There's always room for growth and improvement, but it just was sort of a slow climb because I was thinking, well, this is just something to pay the bills until I can make it as a painter. And then I kind of had this aha moment where I realized, no, like I'm creating works of art, and they're created using the most precious of materials. And so I wish I would have come to that realization sooner, that jewelry is a form of fine art. And I would have started further education sooner. So I would have started studying at the GIA sooner. I would have taken the jewelry design program at the GIA, because they are the one institution that actually still teaches that process, the scale drawings, the watercolor renderings. I had mentioned earlier in the episode about the Alberta University of the Arts. You can take the program there, but they are not going to teach you how to do scale drawings and watercolor renderings. Like that process of jewelry design goes way, way back, hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And such a beautiful fine art that I just find so much joy and passion in. And so had I had the ability to go back in time, I would have sat down with myself, gave myself a shake and said, hey, like everything you're looking for is right here.
Yeah. That's excellent advice to give to yourself then, but you're probably going to save some people some time that are listening to this and are interested in your career. Mm-hmm. You've added a podcast as a passion project. Could you talk about what your podcast is about?
I would love to. Okay, so I'm going to preface that by saying that one of the first things that I tell my clients when I work with them is that the treasures of this world are not diamonds and gold. The treasures of this world are you and I. And that's something that I want to make perfectly clear with everyone that I work with. And so More Than Gold, the podcast, when people think I'm a jewelry designer, they automatically assume the podcast is going to be about gold, diamonds, gemstones. It's not at all. It's about the true treasures of this world, which is you and I, and navigating the joys and sorrows of this world together. And so these episodes are heartfelt. Like they go into some pretty deep topics, depression, suicide, the loss of a child. But then they go into really beautiful, like there's always the underlying theme of finding purpose, perspective, joy, and healing as we navigate these life experiences. And then some of the podcasts are just joyful, like random acts of kindness, or there was one segment where we did real life confessions of frazzled moms, and we just talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and our horror stories of parenting, and had some great laughs.
Yeah.
So it's just like the podcast is all emotions, the full spectrum of emotion, because that's what it is to be human. We've got a full spectrum of emotion.
So producing the podcast, what have you learned from going through that experience?
Hey, I have learned that everybody has a story, and it's a story that is absolutely worth sharing and hearing, and then holding space for the emotions that go hand in hand with that story. And those stories are what make life worth living. They help us connect to those around us. And oftentimes we feel like we should be guarded. We should not share our trials and struggles, and we should put on a brave face like, we've got this, my life is all together, everything is going great. I'm not going to show you the dark, ugly messes, because nobody wants to see that. But the problem that arises when we have that mentality is we start to think, well, there's dark, ugly messes in my life, so something's wrong with me, because I'm looking at her and her and her and him, and they've got it all together, so something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so as we open up and have vulnerability and share our struggles and our joys, we find that we can connect and relate to other people better. And so that I kind of always knew that, but the podcast really reinforced that for me. And it's helped me to view everyone in a different light, because you don't know someone's story until you have a chance to really sit down and have a heart-to-heart. So the girl at the grocery till, you don't know what's going on in her world. The bank teller, you don't know what's going on in his world. And so you really need to just be mindful that you don't have the whole story, you don't have the whole picture. So just treat everyone with unconditional love and kindness, and you can't go wrong. And so I think that is probably the biggest takeaway from my podcast.
Yeah. What is the best advice you could give to somebody that is considering pursuing a career as a fine jewelry designer?
I would say, start with at least a part-time job in a jewelry store. And I would say make sure that there is an on-site goldsmith in the jewelry store that you're seeking a position at. And you're going to have to learn, because there is a lot of working knowledge that you need to have in place before you're able to design jewelry. So you need to learn how rings are made. You need to see how they are repaired, what daily wear and tear looks like on the ring, because that is so incredibly helpful when it comes time to designing rings. If you're just to jump right into, let's say you want to pursue CAD design, but you don't really know how a ring holds up over time. You can design something gorgeous, but if it's not designed to last, you're not going to have a happy client in the end, because you're going to start losing stones, or the gold's too thin, it's going to wear away. That's a problem that I see on Etsy all the time. Like, there's gorgeous photos and images, but I look at that ring and I think that's not an everyday wear ring, but it's being sold as an everyday wear ring. And so working even just part-time, that gives you an idea as to, one, do you like working with people? Do you have those people skills? Can you connect? Do you find joy in this? It also gives you the opportunity to talk to goldsmiths and kind of look over their shoulder and ask questions. Like, I'm sure I drove our goldsmiths crazy. They probably would never admit it, but I just asked so many questions, and I learned so much from them. So being in that environment where you're just kind of hands-on is a really great stepping stone to see if this is something that you're interested in and you want to pursue. And if yes, then a great way to take the next step is keep working in that industry, but there's distance learning. GIA is perfect. I can't praise GIA enough. And so you can start out with the Applied Jewellery Programme, which is very manageable to do online while working part-time or full-time. Once you've got that, if you love that, you can move on again and again, and you can maybe go and become a diamond graduate. You can then go on to be a graduate gemologist. Or you could say, you know what, I'm all in. I want to go to the GIA. You're going to have to study on campus, and they have a wonderful program for teaching you how to become a jewelry designer. So I would just, like, small and simple things. Start out small, see if this is a good fit for you, and then keep growing, because this is a career. I think every career is one where you can just keep learning, keep improving. And the more and more you learn, the more and more you find reward and satisfaction.
Well, I love your positive energy, and congratulations on working in a career that involves what you're passionate about. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I'm so grateful for what you're doing, because not everybody knows what they want to do. And so this is just a great way to kind of get an idea, get the inside scoop as to what it's truly like. I hope and pray that this is helpful to someone out there. And once again, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Job Talk podcast. For more information, please visit us at thejobtalk.com.